Welcome back. This is podcast number 630, and this week we are going to be discussing The Last of Us, episodes 6 and 7, Your Friends and Neighbors, episodes 1 and 2, Hacks, episode 8 and 9, or actually 8 through 10. We're going to finish that show off, and Andor, episodes 7 through 9, the third pod. And if you want to jump to any one of those shows, the time codes are in the description below. And with that, let's get on with the show.
TV Campfire Podcast. We talk TV. Welcome to the show.
This is Livia, television and film editor, and I am here with returning guests.
Malik Elamine, managing director of Griot Theater.
Hi, this is Tom. I chair visual media arts at Palm Beach Atlantic University in Florida and host the Screen Time on Ride podcast on iTunes and Spotify.
Hey, this is Peter. I live in Hollywood, although right now I'm actually visiting Chicago, and I write for We Live Entertainment.
All right, Chi-Town, which actually leads me into the news. The Chi has been renewed for season 8. We never talked about that show on this podcast. Does anybody actually watch it? Is it good? Should we jump on now?
I'm behind on the show, so I'm not up on the current season, but I watched a bunch of them.
Now that Showtime's part of Paramount Plus, I think I'll do a crash course.
A show called Laid, which I've never heard of, has been canceled after one season on Peacock, which is probably why it was canceled, because none of us heard of it.
Well, that news doesn't follow everything. We've got some other cancellations of great shows.
I'm just saying, it only went one season. The Wheel of Time has been canceled after 3 seasons, leaving us on a crazy cliffhanger, which I do not appreciate. Yeah.
They need to make a policy like, if you're going to adapt a long-form book series, you have to give it a minimum of X number of seasons and end at a place where you don't, not a cliffhanger.
Well, also, I feel like if they had given the showrunners a heads up, they could have ended it a little better. They could have ended it better.
Because in all fairness, Robert Jordan ended the story several times himself.
Exactly.
So they could have just picked one of them.
Didn't he die before he finished and they had to hire somebody?
He did. Because I was reading that series originally, and there's a spot around book 3 where it feels like it's over. There's a spot in book 5 where it feels like it's over. There's a spot, there were spots where they could have wrapped everything up.
Yes.
And if they had given the showrunners notice and be like, hey, this is your last season, figure it out. And as far as I can tell, they looked at the ratings, decided they didn't like it, and just axed it, which is very frustrating for me as a viewer. All right, let's move on with the shows. And first up, we're going to talk about The Last of Us episodes 6 and 7. And they were extremely different episodes. Episode 6, they took all the flashbacks from Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they basically took all the flashbacks through the entire second game and put them all in one episode. So you got them.
The game, the way it works is that every time you finish a day, you get a flashback. So you're right. So instead of like doing it that way, they basically just give you an episode, which I thought was really smart, where it's basically all around her birthday. And I was like, oh, that's
but the
actually
birthday,
really
the birthday
idea.
is a different thing. Yeah. So
they
changed that.
But I wouldn't say like the astronaut museum, like that's exactly like the game. But some of the other ones, like the Eugene thing, is not in the game. So I wouldn't say it's not 1-to-1. But the museum thing, yes, that's literally the game, which is great. It's like one of the best moments.
I really was moved by this episode. One, because I felt like they gave us enough time to grieve Joel.
To feel Joel's absence.
we really felt his absence. That's a good way to put it. And just when you thought that it's all just going to be about Ellie and her journey, they kind of surprise us with this flashback episode. I mean, they give us a hint the episode before, but then we get this whole thing and we see her on all her birthdays, and it made me pretty emotional. Like at the beginning, it was mainly emotionally happy because I got to see their real father-daughter relationship. And then by the time we get to the Eugene and the porch thing, the Eugene one made me angry.
I thought establishing Joel and Tommy's background with their father, the fact that the father was abusive and evidently the grandfather used to beat the father. And so the father started like that until Joel started to get to the age where, try it, old man. But the father says, I hope you do better than me. And then that gets repeated.
What I wanted to talk about real quick and kind of capsulate together is the happy birthdays, which were the very first birthday where he managed to get Ellie a cake, which I think would be her 15th birthday. And then her 16th was the museum. And both of those birthdays really showed how much Joel was really trying to make those birthdays special for her, because you're at the end of the world, the apocalypse. The only thing you can do for your kid is to figure out a way to make a birthday cake for them, which is impressive to do at the end of the world. And the amount of effort that he did for the museum is insane. He went all out. And then to get that tape with the recording, that was pretty impressive. And I have to say that all of that just gave me this really warm feeling, and her on the dinosaur and him just worried about her, but then so happy for her. I was halfway through that and I was like, this is probably the best episode of The Last of Us for me, just because it just gave me that joy of their father-daughter relationship, which is for me the center of the show and the center of everything. Just the joy on Ellie's face as she's imagining herself going into space. I've never seen her that happy, ever. So I was in. And then he was like, did I do good? And I was like, oh, yeah, you did good.
I thought that it was valuable mainly in how it set up contrast for what comes at the end of the episode.
Yes.
And the end of the episode is what I personally attached to and was moved by. Those happy moments, it felt a little bit like, hey, would you feel happy now? Okay, we're going to feel happy for like 20 minutes or however long it lasts. So I often talk about how this show is so efficient in its storytelling. And in this piece, it was not efficient. It took a very long time. I understand that you appreciated it. You enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I understand they're happy. Can we tell the rest of the story now? The happy stuff was setting up the payoff, which was the difficult conversation that they had, which was incredible.
I don't mind the slower parts, the table setting in shows like this or Andor. I think that we as a culture are so used to very fast-paced media, then we have something that's a little bit more leisurely paced that we get really frustrated. But this is short-form television, and for the most part, I mean, it didn't drag out. You got basically several seasons worth of birthday episode. You know, Buffy used to do a birthday episode every season except for the final season. But you crammed like several seasons worth of, surrogate father-daughter, relationship, which eventually, it's going to go sour because we've started.
We've seen
it's
it.
a flashback. Yeah. We've
Right.
seen it. I thought the revelation of why it went bad was very telling. And of course, the thing is, Joel says, I hope you do better. And we know she ain't gonna.
In the game, she goes back to the hospital. She goes back to the end of where Joel kills everybody. And she basically, because it's a game, you basically walk through the hallways. Now, like, the hospital's deserted. You find these little tapes and recordings. So you piece together as Ellie what happened. And Joel catches up to her and he's like, I can't believe you left. And then she basically is the same conversation. She's like, tell me what happened here. If you lie, you'll never see me again. And then of course, all the stuff on the porch, like that stuff is true. Here, I liked that it was like, well, she's not going to go all the way to Utah again, but they do this thing with Eugene where she hears him promise. And it's the same way that he swore at the end of the first season. And that's how she knows he's lying. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I was like, speaking of Malik's thing about efficient, that's very efficient. I was like, that's a very nice, simple way that she knows. It confirms what she was pretty sure. I am worried that is the end of the game. The game ends with that porch conversation. So when you finish the game, the entire thing all comes together to, it is ultimately the whole thing was always about Joel and Ellie. So now I have no idea how they're going to end, because I'm like, well, like that works so well. I heard that the creators said that they just felt like making people wait another 2 seasons for that might be too long. I get it, especially because it's years. Yeah. I just don't know what to do now. I don't know how you're going to end it.
Well, I agree with that last statement. And actually, I thought they waited just the right amount of time. If you can go back to the number of times we've discussed on this podcast what Ellie knew when, How much
Right,
did she
right.
figure out? How much did someone tell her?
Right.
We were actively imagining the conversation, and we didn't technically know that it happened, which I
Right.
love how they shot that. We
Right, yes.
didn't know that she came back to the porch. So
Right.
the fact of her just returning to the porch is a reveal. And
Yes.
then we get to hear the conversation that we've already imagined. I thought
Right.
that was superbly done.
Next, I'd like to talk about the actual finale because the flashback breaks us out, and now we are back in Seattle.
Back in the
She's
theater.
just back in the theater. She's just tortured Nora, and she has this information, but she doesn't know what it means. It's whale wheel, and she's like, I tortured her forever, and all I got was these 2 words. I don't know what they mean. So she's at like a dead end, and then she confesses to Dina what Joel did and why
Mhm.
Abby is killed him. And what's crazy is she expects Dina to reject her like she rejected Joel when she tells that story. And for the most part, at least at the beginning, it does kind of look like that's what happens.
Well, Dina's pretty upset. Like,
yeah. And I think because Dina is risking her life, her baby's life, all of this with information that I think would have changed her opinion on what to do. But then she very quickly is like, here's this lucky amulet or whatever, and go on your journey. And she's telling her all is not really.
I have that, by the way.
Of course you do.
It came with my Last of Us collector's edition. I don't have it on me, but I have that. Yes.
I was just going.
Although the one in the show is way better than the one I have. I was like, ooh, that's really nice.
That was used to symbolize the fact that she's at least beginning to forgive her and is like, all right, let's get out of here. And so now the mission is, let's find Tommy, let's get out of here. But Abby, come on.
I thought it was really exciting. Jesse's new tension with
That was
Ellie.
great.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
because
love
if you go back to earlier in the season, he's like her number one ace boon coon. And he's like her supporter and her cheerleader. And now he will barely talk to her, and finally does tell her about herself.
Yes.
That was
which
really
is-
good.
Yeah.
and
it's
he
nice to
wasn't
have.
lying. He wasn't lying. Like everything he said was truth.
I do like that Jessie figured out she was pregnant. I don't like shows where smart people do stupid things or can't put two and two together and get 4.
Right.
So I mean, Jesse's he's a Boy Scout. He's a protector. I thought it was interesting that he tells her that I voted against y'all
Yeah.
going on your little revenge mission because it's not good for the community.
Absolutely.
And then I think the
And
problem
Ellie
is,
was like, F the community.
No,
But-
but that's the problem. That's
Yes, it
her.
is.
When she said that, I was
She's
like,
the problem.
the thing is, she is so focused on revenge that it's blinding her good judgment and it puts everybody else in danger.
It is, but I will say to that scene, I like that I overall agree with Jesse. I like that in that when they're having their big, the little verbal sparring match, I like that she's like, your community, that's why that kid just died. And I was like, she's not wrong. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
but it's not just that. It was 2 against 6 or 12.
I
or
know that,
however
but
many-
it's
but that's-
still, I understood her point of view of like, we're just going to sit here and watch this person die. But I also understood Jesse's thing of like, it's 6 of them and it's not our war. Like, I get both.
And also-
but that's what I like about the scene. I like that I like that I do get Ellie feeling like I don't want to watch this person die. Like, I get it. Like, I get both. I guess.
That same person would have gutted her if he caught her.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I'm not so sure about feeling a responsibility toward him.
I don't either, and I thought that was irrational for her to want to save him. It didn't make any sense. On
That
the
guy
other
was
hand,
that kid was terrified.
but it's
Like,
still
what do you mean?
but she had just watched his people gut someone. So my point is, I don't get that. What makes me frustrated is she can say that, and then 5 seconds later, it's like, let Tommy fight on his own. He'll be fine.
No, that's her. Well, that's from Ellie, like not being able to let go of the Abby bone. That's what that is.
I get it,
Yeah.
but it's
I
like,
mean,
you can't come at Tommy saying, "Hey, we didn't save some random kid, but I'm not going to help you save Tommy," even though he's my uncle. I'm not going to do it because I got to
Yeah,
go
no,
kill
I
him.
agree.
Like,
I agree.
She
I
comes
agree with
off
you.
like a complete hypocrite, and it's insane. And for her to call him a hypocrite just makes it even worse.
But I think that, to me, that's what I like about the episode. I think there's a lot of sort of hypocrites. In a way, Dina's kind of a hypocrite, because Dina, episodes ago, was like, she was like, are you sure that, like, she's like, look, if I knew who killed my, is it mom and sister? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So if I knew who killed my mom and sister, it would not matter to me. I would do anything to, like, you know, to avenge them or whatever. So then she literally gets the information. It's like, here's what Joel did. And then she's upset. And she's not like, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, now it does seem like Dina is sort of questioning. So I'm like, but I think that's part of the episode, is that you're having these people with these contradictions where you're like, oh, well, I thought you said one thing, but now you're doing the other. Like,
let's jump to the part where we get to the end, where it's basically her trying to steal a boat, and her big plan is, let me shoot these two random guys. I haven't scoped out the situation at all. Let me just shoot these guys from very long range from my pistol, which is going to turn into a firefight. And then 5 seconds later, she sees there's an army. And if she had fired those shots, she would have been dead immediately. That's my frustration. When you talk about smart people doing stupid stuff, the more I watch Ellie, I'm like, is she smart? Like,
No.
I don't.
No.
well, she's very impulsive. She's very impulsive.
But
That's
it makes
what
her
she's like.
seem very dumb. It does
Yeah,
not make me seem.
You got to remember, she's still a kid. She's still a teenager.
But Dina is too, and so is Jesse. They're all around the same
I think Jesse's
age.
older.
Jesse's a little older, and Dina plays a little older too.
Here's the thing about Ellie. She was never really bright. She's immune, which is part of why she's still alive. And 2,
Right.
she had Joel this whole time,
Yes.
which is also part of why she's still alive. Now, that's not to say that she's incapable of doing things, but her judgment has been pretty poor for the whole show. So to me, that's not a surprise that she's exhibiting poor judgment.
Yes,
yet again.
everybody, even the showrunners keep talking about how impulsive she is, but it doesn't read as impulsive to me. It reads as dumb. Like, I
thought he reads as kind of impulsive. Like,
I think it reads as impulsive.
I guess I don't understand what impulsiveness is.
I do love all the memes we've seen of, like, because, you know, obviously if you play the game, you know, Ellie, you're Ellie and you kick ass as Ellie and everything with your weapon. Oh, thanks, man. With your weapons and all this kind of stuff. And so, like, yes, I think there is a meme where it's like, Jesse's like, it's 6 of them. We can't take that on. And then you cut to you being Ellie mowing down 20 people. Or like, well, the game version, I could kill 20 of them. Like, you know.
They have mired this show in as much of reality as we can, so they're trying to show realistic situations. And I just find it really annoying where she does that. But anyway, my point is, she gets in this boat. Rocky seas, there's a storm coming. She's in that tiny, tiny rowboat. And oh my God, it gets capsized.
Capsized.
Thank you. That's the correct word. And I'm just like, of course it does. And the universe is like, let's almost kill you to show you're on the wrong path. And she's like, you know what? I almost got hung and disemboweled by these guys, but I'm just gonna get back in my boat and get back on mission.
By that weird evil kid who's like
that was terrifying. Your boat gets capsized. You almost get disemboweled, and you're like, you know what? This mission's totally on point. I'm just gonna keep going.
Nope. She keeps going. For me, what happens next is what at least kind of seals her fate. With Owen and Mel, she's trying to reason with him, and then Owen goes for his gun, which is the last stupid thing he did.
Yeah.
But she shoots Owen, but she also shoots Mel, and then because she doesn't know how to perform a C-section, and Mel's like, I can talk you through it. It's like, no, you can't. You're about ready to die. But the death of the innocent, it's like, you killed one person who definitely kind of deserved it, one person who was just collateral damage, and one complete innocent.
She doesn't, like, consciously shoot a pregnant person. Like, that it's not...
She didn't try to shoot Mel anyway.
She didn't try to shoot Mel in the first place. That was all an accident.
She accidentally shoots Owen, and the bullet goes through and hits Mel.
Right,
So
which
she
actually
didn't even try to hit Mel.
Right, I know some people thought that was kind of a cop-out, because in the game... I think she shoots Owen, and then Mel rushes her with like a knife, and then Ellie Ellie turns the knife and then guts her in the neck or whatever.
Jeez.
So she consciously kills her. Here it is an accident, but in both things, she does not know that the person's pregnant. Like,
watching it, I'm talking to the screen when Mel is like, okay, you got to take the baby out. And on the one point, to Tom's point, she doesn't know how to perform a C-section. I don't either. I did get that the cut was supposed to be horizontal, so I knew that part. But it's like, if you don't know how to do it, the worst thing you could do is kill a baby who's already going to die.
Right.
True.
So there's actually not a risk in performing the C-section. She decides not to perform
Not
the
to even
C-section,
try.
Well,
Yeah.
which is, in the words of the young folks, diabolical.
No. I think she's pretty freaked out. I don't think she's like, ha, this baby will die.
No. That's not what
but-
we're saying. But the fact that
I
she
think it's a
just quit.
decision because of what she's in the field among enemies trying to hunt down her revenge target. Doing that with a newborn baby would be impossible. Saving the baby would mean abandoning her mission. And I think that's why she didn't save the baby.
I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah, I thought she was
I
just
thought she was.
scared.
I thought she was overwhelmed.
Intentional or unintentional, both Mel and the baby are collateral damage.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's like, ooh, you have blood on your hands, girl.
Absolutely. But let's get on to the big scene at the end where they're all fully committed. We're like, I'm giving
Going
up.
home.
By the way, I still didn't believe her, but go ahead.
But she said the words and they were packing and ready to go in the morning. And then what happens? Some kind of way, in the rain and in the dark and in a storm, Abby tracks them. I'm not sure how that happened. But Abby tracks them, shows up, and you hear this commotion. They come running straight out the door. And Tommy, but Jesse.
She shoots Jesse in the head.
Jesse gets one right in the face. I mean, he was dead before he hit the floor.
Yep.
And that death is 100% on her.
Yep.
And she realizes that and tries to keep Tommy from being killed. I don't know if that's going to work because I feel like if Abby learned anything, it's like, oh, I can't be leaving people behind. So if she kills Ellie, she's definitely going to have to kill Tommy.
And Dina.
Well, I don't think she knows Dina's there.
She doesn't know Dina's there.
Dina's upstairs. So, and she doesn't, I don't think she knows about Dina. And I'm kind of mad that the cliffhanger of her shooting and then it goes to black. Like, come on.
Seattle, day one, and we got Abby's POV. It's like, seriously?
That's the game. I mean, that's the game.
I know you can say that, but I know you're saying that because you've been telling me about this forever, that the game does this and the game. At a certain point, that was one of the first times where I was like, I don't care what the game does, man. Like, why are you leaving me on this cliffhanger? And especially because with the game, I can choose to keep playing.
True.
Versus I now have to wait 2 years to get the rest of this story. So
that's true. I agree.
The showrunners left it with the point of view of the character we're least interested in.
Yes.
I actually think that's a problem because Abby, while she does all of these things, I don't like anything about her. I don't like anything. She's not even a charismatic villain. She's just, I don't like anything about her. So I think that's a little bit of a problem, is that they give us the cliffhanger from her point of view. Now, we know that when we come back to the season, Ellie's going to be front and center again.
No, I think it's Abby. It's going to be Abby fronts. Yeah, the showrunners straight up said it. We're going to start. We're going to pick up
Abby's
where we left
POV.
off. It's
it's her
Abby's
3 days.
It's her 3 days. We're going to get 3 days of Abby.
Well, who wants that?
I trust these showrunners a lot. We've been talking about all these bad decisions that Ellie's been making. I think it's kind of gutsy, and haven't played the game, but still, it's kind of gutsy to flip your protagonist and antagonist. We got a whole 6-season show out of that on, Cobra Kai, where Daniel, the hero of the movies, becomes the antagonist, and Johnny, the antagonist of the first movie, becomes the lead. So I trust these guys. They're good storytellers.
Okay, so in the game, it's the same thing. She puts the gun up. She's like, you know, we let you live and you wasted it. And then it cuts to black. You hear a gunshot and it cuts to black. But in the game, what they do is they go 5 years earlier or something like that. And you see a teen girl with the same braid and you realize it's Abby. And you see Abby as a kid. And I liked that more because what they do in the show is by doing Seattle Day One, well, then she's already still Abby. In the game, it's like, well, now we're really going to show you when she's just a child. And actually, I thought that was pretty effective.
I
So
mean, they still might do that.
They still might do that. I was a little like, oh, you really need to understand Abby completely. You can't just be like, because it is sort of what Malik's saying. You're like, I don't like this person. I'm like, well, you've got to get to know her. I felt the same. Like, I hated Abby when I was playing the game. Two of my other friends who also loved the game felt the same, and we all really like Abby. So I guess I would say trust the writers the same way Tom is saying. Like,
wait for it is what you're saying. Next up, we're going to talk about Your Friends and Neighbors, episodes 1 and 2, and this basically sets up the whole concept or conceit of the show, which is you have this really rich hedge fund guy who gets fired for kind of cause. I mean, his boss makes it seem like cause, but it's all BS to get him out of the company so that he can take the guy's money and accounts. And his big thing is, and his pride, of course, is his downfall. So instead of telling people, hey, I got fired, he spends a lot of time not telling anybody and then trying to supplement all his expenses by randomly stealing small things from everybody at work.
My tolerance for rich white people behaving badly is reaching. I'm kind of over it after three seasons of White Lotus.
I was about to say, that's why I don't watch White Lotus. So I get that.
I'm not watching season 4 because season 3 was crap. But the thing that got me watching this is I really like Jon Hamm as an actor. He's good.
Yeah.
It's got a good supporting cast. What I thought was really telling is he talks about how easy it is because he's an affluent white guy. If he's somewhere where, you know, somebody of color was, they would probably be shot on sight.
Not only is he robbing his neighbor's house, he's bad at it, and it still works. So it's like a mediocre white guy is successful at this robbery. It's crazy.
It's the fact that they openly tell each other when they're bragging to each other, like, I'm going on a cruise to blah blah blah, I'm going to the mountains of wherever. So they're all bragging to each other about these trips that they're going on, so he knows when they're not going to be in the house.
To be fair, I don't think they think they're bragging. In that, it's like, I went to 7-Eleven and got a Slurpee. It's like, it's just what we do.
But I do like the fact that now that he has to kind of, and I put struggle in parentheses, for money, he is now seeing how pretentious everybody else is.
Yes.
Which I think is at least interesting. Being self-aware of the situation.
Those people they're so insulated and so rich. He can take these things probably because they're probably not even going to notice.
Right.
Like that, like there's also that aspect of it, you know, like, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. He's like, I took this $350,000 watch. He's never going to even realize it's missing.
Which I didn't realize there were watches worth that much money. I was like, what? Oh, yeah. I was like, is that real? I was like, is it really? I was like, how's that possible? Like, his kind of realizing, like, who he is, who he's become,
right,
and who his friends and neighbors are. Like, I think that's the interesting aspect of the show.
Exactly.
And like Tom says, I really like Jon Hamm. And it's a good cast. The whole cast is pretty good. I did roll my eyes how it opens. There's like a dead body, right? And I was like, because to me, I like that I know that things are going to escalate because that's how shows are. But I kind of like that it's like, he's not looking to murder people or whatever. He really just wants to take his friend's stuff and then sell it. It's like, and like Malik said, he's not a real career criminal. He's not really good at this. So elevating it to an opening where it's like, and now there's a dead body. I was like, this is so big. Oh, wait, we talk about this. I really like essentially the person who he sells the things to.
Oh,
Lou.
pawn-
Her name is Lou.
Lou, like the
Yeah,
pawn,
she's great.
pawnbroker. Yeah,
Like, I really like her.
I like her
I like
attitude.
yeah, I
And-
like her
and-
attitude.
And
Like, I
her
think
whole
that's
thing about him is like she's like, yeah, okay. She does not take him seriously.
Well, so you've gone on to episode 2, which is good because I want to contrast 1 and 2. I didn't like 1 very much at all for all of the reasons why I didn't think I was going to like this show. I like about half of Jon Hamm, maybe 33% of him. So there are lots of times when I don't like Jon Hamm, and I did not like him in the first episode because of what he presents as an actor, but also the story. Before we know that he was kind of fully set up, he shouldn't have been doing the stuff to get set up in the first place. And at one point, it makes it look almost like he's the victim in that situation.
Right.
He's a horrible dad, and then he's just sad. So in the first episode, I was like, I didn't think I was going to like this show, and I don't really like this pilot. The best thing that I appreciated about this pilot was the associate that he slept with. I thought as an actor, the way we saw her change from the opening moment where she was going after him to when she started to try to figure out what's going on here. I actually like that character a lot. So I did not like the pilot, but moving on into episode 2, I thought it was actually a much better show. So 1, I saw the 33% of Jon Hamm that I like, which was when he was in that job interview and he was being tough. Jon Hamm being tough is kind of interesting. And when he was like, oh, you must be somebody, you're related to somebody in this building. What's going on here?
That was so good. That was so good. Like, he just called that dude out. He was like, so who's your dad?
Yeah. So I liked, there's a lot I liked about episode 2. You mentioned Lou at the pawn shop.
Yeah.
You think about that character, that could have been so unremarkable. It could have been so unremarkable because it feels like just a plot device. But the actress who plays Lou is just so full of life and choices without working hard at it. So Mel, the ex-wife, when she is listening to her patient talk about why he keyed the car and that he just had something in him that had to come out. And you could see in her eyes, she knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah.
That, talk about efficient storytelling. They didn't need to give us any backstory for her. We just had to watch her listen to his story. And we knew all of this about her inner life, which I thought was brilliant.
I really like the show. I think it's I've been recommending it to other people, and it's probably my fault we're doing it on the podcast. So anyway, let's move on. So next up, we're going to talk about hacks, and we're going to wrap up the season. And as much as I was poo-pooing it last podcast, I will have to say they really came up in this part of the last couple episodes were much stronger than the rest of the season.
Right. So at 8, they set the table by letting everybody, including the manager, know that they have already made up. But there's a bit about the manager, about Deborah's manager not being treated with the respect that he's
Jimmy. Yeah,
oh, right.
Right. Not being treated with the respect that he's supposed to have. Also, what's her face? Ava's mom comes into town, and it's Take Your Mom to Work Day.
Right.
Oh, that was cute. It was cute and not cute at the same time because I realized I don't really like Ava's mom.
It's really such a one note, she's kind of a yokel.
I didn't think that episode was necessary. I didn't need that in the story. It didn't help anyway. Like, I've now seen the whole season, and I don't think it did anything.
The episode or the character?
The character, like that.
Well, the character's been around since season 1.
I know, but that having this character have this arc for here, I didn't feel like served a purpose.
I do think they redeemed themselves with these episodes, and it's largely because we didn't have to focus as much on Ava being Ava. We had other people to focus on. We had Jimmy to focus on. We brought her mom in, and even though the character wasn't that great, the idea of bringing mom to work was kind of interesting. We had the mayor with her scandal. By the way,
that was good.
That was pretty good. Yeah,
I have always just kind of tolerated the mayor's character as them trying to have a funny something happening. But in this episode, the mayor, she earned her place.
Yeah,
her
that
work
good.
was so strong in this episode dealing with that scandal. And I loved the theme. I mean, they said it and then they showed it. Deborah was like, I don't make jokes about friends. And you showed her you saw her really taking loyalty and doing something with it. So
Right.
I just love that storyline. Well, you have to say the last thing that happened in 8, which is Deborah essentially got her boss fired by going above his head.
Right.
Oh,
Her
head. Her head.
Her head.
Yeah.
She gets Helen Hunt fired.
Yeah, but the thing is, the only thing I will say to give Deborah this sliver is that I don't think she made that call with the intention of getting her fired. It's just when she realizes she's fired, she realizes, oh, I did that. So it was more of a after the effect. She just thought he was going to tell her to chill out on it. She didn't know he was going to straight up fire her. And then she was like, oh, my bad.
I don't think she was even my bad. And
that's true.
Tony Goldwyn rarely, if ever, plays good guys. He kind of specialized in playing charming dirtbags. Good-looking, charming, powerful dirtbags. And this guy's no different.
Yeah.
And face it, he probably had it in for Helen Hunt anyway.
Oh, yeah. I think he just used that as an excuse.
And the fact that he shows up in episode 9 to kind of, hey, things are going to be a little different around here. I may be taking a personal interest in it. It's like, dude, you're wanting to do...
And what's the first thing he does is he gets his friend who's in a sexual harassment on the show. Nobody else will touch him. And he's like,
and they have talked about that character earlier in the season. And then when Deborah makes... I thought it was a fairly innocuous joke that could have easily been... taken out.
Which is what they do. They do take it out. That was the whole scandal.
Ava should have known better, though.
Thank you. That's my issue.
Ava should have known better. You don't talk to your friend who works for any kind of news outlet, even if it's like a fake news show like John Oliver. You don't... it's just like, I can't tell you about that, or you make it clear that it's off the record.
I mean, I'm only an editor, and I know better than that. You can't be talking about that.
And the friend who put her in that position, he was kind of a D-bag for putting her in that position.
Because the thing is, after she said that, she was like, I'm going to get in trouble. I was like, no, you're going to get fired. Like, that's what's going to happen. Yep. And the fact that she was surprised that she was getting fired was like, come on, of course you're getting fired. Like, that's what happens when you screw up on this level.
She's about as smart as Ellie in Last of Us.
What surprised me, because you're talking about the loyalty that Deborah has shown, I didn't expect Deborah to show Ava that level of loyalty at the end. I was quite surprised, because the only thing I was mad about, I was like, if you're going to fire her, just fire her to her face. What are you locking her out of the studio for? I was like, what are you doing? So that was the only thing that surprised me. And then when she's like, I'm quitting the show, I was like, what?
So they earned where they went with the loyalty that Deborah shows Ava, because they had shown throughout the entire series that Deborah is a Scorpion. And they showed that she was a Scorpion who could not change her nature. So, we kept having this complaint that Ava kept being surprised when Deborah would do something horrible to her. It's like, no, she's showing you who she is.
Exactly.
So I really loved that they actually surprised me when Deborah actually acts with integrity. So I just really thought they earned that. And Jean Smart also, earns it in terms of what she brings to the screen.
Absolutely. It was really good. So then you get to the finale episode, because as she gets fired, she quits.
We can't. I'm sorry, we can't leave episode 9 without talking about Norman Bates and him taking the tour on the studio lot, and Norman Bates stays in character throughout the entire interaction.
I have been on that tour 10 times. I have
Yeah.
literally been on that tour.
I've
like
never
10
been on
times.
that tour.
Really?
Really?
We have
I've
to.
been
We
on
have
it.
to go, Peter. We
Do
have
they
to
really
go.
have a Norman Bates?
Yes,
now?
they do. They do. They
That's
absolutely.
newish to me because I've been on that tour multiple times since '74.
Yeah, they have a Norman Bates and all the stuff that they show. I was like, oh, y'all just chilling out at the Universal lot. Anyway, that dude is always there, and he's always like stuffing a body in the car when you drive by. And so having them stop to talk to him was like, wow, okay. And he stayed in character. That was fantastic.
That's
I loved it.
hilarious.
It didn't help the story, but mwah, I loved it.
Grace note.
All right, but let's get to the finale. And so she quits, finds out she has an 18-month non-compete that apparently she didn't read her contract before she decided to quit.
And-
Come on.
And unlike Conan, she can't perform live.
Right.
She can't not compete on TV.
He was
She
like,
can't be in
he was
front of
like,
a microphone
we'll
anywhere.
sue you if you sing in the shower. That was pretty good. So then her big solution is to go to Singapore and have a translator translate her jokes, which I was like, I still feel like that's not kosher. But I guess Singapore just doesn't care about laws, so they were just like,
Right, that's
whatever.
what she said. She's like,
Yeah.
they're not going to care.
They're
But,
not going to care. But I just saw her descent, and not into madness, but kind of into depression.
That descent that you're mentioning, they mark it in really cool ways. So first they open with you see her meeting with that bargain basement lawyer.
Right.
Who he is like, I can't do anything for you. And they establish that no lawyer could. Then they see her going back to her former COO who left the company,
Marcus.
and she's trying to see, can he do something to get her back into the business? That's a no-go. And then even when she gets drunk at home and falls asleep, they show the housekeeper putting her hand under her nose to see
To
if
make
she's
sure
still
she's
breathing.
still alive, right?
Like, so the descent that you're talking about, they have all of these moments that just show how bad, how low she has gotten, which I thought was a beautiful picture painting there.
I love Singapore. It's my second favorite city on the planet next to San Diego. But I thought it was interesting that they kind of they went to Singapore. 'Cause
No,
I've been
the
there-
San Diego just seems way
Yeah,
out
that
of-
was a weird. I was like, what? All right. I've been to San Diego. I have not been to
I like
Singapore,
San
but
Diego.
wow,
I went to a
like-
place that had nice muffins, but I don't think
They
of it
used to be
as
tied for
the
first.
best
but
place on the planet. So
it just shows that she has become a hack as the title of the show. Because not only is she slumming in a country whose language she doesn't speak, and they have 4 official languages, by the way, but she has an interpreter, and then maybe the interpreter's interpreting her accurately. There's a question about that.
No, it's not really
No
a
matter-
question. She bombed the joke and then blamed it on the interpreter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't doubt that the interpreter was interpreting correctly.
but to your point, Tom, not only that, but she stops doing new material. So
Yes.
now she's doing old material
Old
being
material.
interpreted by someone. Which
Yep.
is,
Right.
Yeah.
which is where the series picked up. She is a hack, and that was and finally Ava's sick of it and says, "I'm going to leave." And then I thought, which a brilliant move to kind of kick us off into season 5. Ava gets a text alert that Deborah dead.
Yeah,
Deborah's dead!
Dead at
And,
72.
no, Jimmy calls, and so Ava goes running to the
right.
room, and she's still there, and so they both head back to LA, and that's where we're going to pick
Because
up.
what was great is she said, "This will not be my legacy." She reads her obituary
yes,
right.
and is insulted and was like, "This will not be my
It's
legacy."
funny. I actually thought when episode 9 ends and he's like 18 months, you can't even sing in the shower. I was like, oh, that's an interesting final season if it's the final season. But it feels like what they did was, I guess, the final episode was that 18 months, sort of.
No.
It might cover about 6 months.
Yeah,
Maybe 6
it's-
months, the whole 8
Yeah,
months.
the whole
So she's
thing
still
is
got to figure out something else to do
Yes.
when she gets back.
exactly. So
Okay,
the new
'cause-
season is still going to be. She's not going to be able. She's still going to be in lockdown.
I love this show, and I was pretty mixed this season. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't love the dance mom thing. I don't like the HR lady. I was like, I don't like any of this. Like, but yeah, I think they saved it. The last 3 episodes, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Like, so yeah.
You wouldn't offer to boof the dance mom? I mean, come on, Peter, what are you doing here?
Ooh.
So next up, we're going to talk about Andor episodes 7 through 9, and this is how the Empire deals with the Gorman problem. And we start off with episode 9, or 7, which is actually a really fast episode. It's only like 30 minutes, and it's basically we check in with Cassian on Yavin, and it's all a year later. He's got this scar on his back, which I'm sure came from a mission that we just didn't get to see, and he's all jacked up. But he goes to see a Force healer, which was against his will, because Bix is like, no, this is not healing. We got to deal with it. And at the same time, you get Wilmon coming in and saying, Dedra, who basically was responsible, Dedra, thank you, who was responsible for Ferrix's being, all those people being killed and interrogated. She's on Gorman, let's go kill her. And so it's the struggle that Cassian has with what his fate is. That's really the core of this episode. He keeps toying with the idea that him and Bix are just going to leave and not worry about this, but he keeps getting pulled in by different elements saying, yes, we got to do this.
They give you little clues and hints about how pervasive the rebellion on Gorman has become. So Cassian, rather stupidly, goes back to the same hotel where he had a different disguise.
Thank you. I said the same thing.
And the guy at the desk absolutely recognizes him. But fortunately, he's a sympathizer with the rebellion. So he's giving him all these, oh, you've got a nice room. It's facing the street. Hey, she's going to check your credentials when she gets out of here. Like, he's giving him all these tips. So that's one of those cases where the opposite of what, or rather the echo of what Cassian said on a previous episode, he just got lucky that guy was sympathetic to him.
I get wanting revenge, but I feel like big picture, it's the same thing with Ellie, I think. Like, Wilmon, dude, we got bigger fish to fry. What are you doing? You know,
well, so I think it's a dual purpose. She is much of the brains and the operations behind what's happening there.
But that's not why he's trying to do it. I don't even think he necessarily knows that. I just think he wants to get the woman who killed his father. From our point of view, we understand how smart she is, and taking her out will really hurt the Empire. Like, we get that, but I don't think Wilmon gets that. I don't think that has anything to do with what he's trying to accomplish.
What I think is really fascinating about this episode is it's where Cyril seems to be having second thoughts about what he's doing and the information that Dedra is giving him.
Yes.
Which I'm gonna take us into 8.
Go ahead.
Because he figures it out. He figures out what's going, and he's like, hey, let me choke the life out of you.
Well, before he gets to that point, what's interesting is the thing that you have to understand about Cyril, which I think I'm not even going to say her name, she did not understand about him, is that he seems simple and has mommy issues and all that other stuff, but he is a rule follower. He is all about the righteousness of his cause by following the rules. And when he realizes that the Empire lied to him, that they're trying to mine the planet, and the whole resistance thing had nothing to do with why the Empire was there, it was all set up. Once he realizes that, he feels played and used, and he is not happy. I can't believe that she was so shocked. Like, well, we're all going to get promotions. What's your problem? And I'm like, dude, you don't get this guy. Like, that's not what he's about.
There's this great chain of who's using whom.
Right.
But on the Empire side, and it ends up poorly for pretty much everybody.
But to the point that Tom raised, when you saw him almost choke Dedra out, you also saw that that's probably the most turned on she'd ever been by him. So it was a very interesting moment.
She's probably thinking, oh, get some BDSM in the minute.
I don't think I read that scene that way. That was not how I saw it, but okay. My issue is that they're giving him this epiphany. Cyril is getting this epiphany through this whole episode. You're seeing the buildup of this crowd in the square, and we as the viewers are very much aware that the Empire is planning to massacre all these people, right?
Yep.
And he figures out that that's what they're planning to do too, but he has this moment where it looks like he's thinking about warning them and letting them know, but he can't quite bring himself to break from the Empire enough to actually do it. Then once the massacre actually starts happening, he's strangely in this weird state of shock where he's not ducking for cover. He's not doing anything.
When he sees a familiar face amidst the chaos, and it's one Cassian Andor, whom he's, in his mind, this is my Jean Valjean, I'm Inspector Javert. And when they get face to face, and the brilliance of this scene is Cassian has Dedra in his crosshairs.
Right.
He is ready to kill the bee. And then Cyril comes in and they start a big old fight. And
The best line ever.
it's the title of the episode. Toward the conclusion of the fight, Cyril's ready to plug Cassian, and Cassian simply stares at him and says, "Who are you?" Because he doesn't know.
Why would he know?
And that split second is enough for somebody else to plug Cyril in the head.
But that's actually my issue. I hated that part. I loved the moment, like, because Cyril is struggling this whole episode trying to figure out what's going on, who is he, what does it all mean, and then he sees Cassian and he's like, this guy, it's all his fault. He's trying to like put all his disillusionment onto Cassian, and then by Cassian being like, who are you, it basically epitomizes for him that the Empire didn't care about him. Cassian doesn't know who he is. He's nothing, and he's having an epiphany. He's like in the middle of really realizing where his life is going, and I
liked all that.
I did too, but I don't like I wanted him to finish his epiphany. If I'm going to watch this character for 2 seasons, I'm watching a character that I don't like for 2 seasons. They finally make him interesting. Make him interesting. He's now 3-dimensional, and I'm now like, oh, this is why we sat through this terrible character for 2 seasons, is for this. And then the very second that they make him an interesting character, they shoot him in the head. I wanted to throw things at my television.
The true brilliance of that scene is Cyril has no idea that he prevented Cass from killing Dedra.
I don't care about that.
And will never know.
Well, so Tom just used 2 references in the last 2 minutes here. So he talked about Jean Valjean, the Les Miserables reference. And then at the end, the "Who are you?" which is kind of a Babylon 5 reference as well. If we want to go there, I'm all the way on board. I loved that "Who are you?" comes at the end of all of what we've seen, both throughout the season and throughout that fight. That you get all the way to the end of the fight, and it's like, now what's your name? I thought that was brilliant. I actually think they earned killing Cyril at that point. I'm fine with that. As a matter of fact, they might have had a problem if they kept him alive, because they did have a problem even with Cassian through the remainder of that episode. He did a lot of watching.
Yes.
There's a lot of shots of Cassian just watching what's happening. They don't know what to do with him. He's witnessing all of this.
Yes.
And some of that I don't mind, but it felt like at one point
excessive.
A lot of characters were just witnessing and not doing. I think they built a really tense, action-filled finale. And I loved the different factions and the different characters that we were watching as this thing was happening, watching the plan come to fruition and people doing exactly what they were expected to do to help close the noose on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was effective.
And then in the next episode, that's the first time first time Andor meets Mon Mothma, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty good too. Her speech is fantastic. And I think it is so interesting as a person who loves Star Wars and even defends like the prequels. It is so interesting.
Oh no!
You know that about we're not going to go down that road. But anyways, I think it's interesting how the Phantom Menace is when we first saw that Senate thing with their little floating teacup, and now we get this very heavy, great speech in the same scene, in the same setting, but it feels so weighty and everything. And I was like, wow, that's pretty great. Like that in 20 years, we've seen this set go through these kind of like tonal changes and everything.
In that speech, what was so great was the fact that you had the people in charge of the Empire who were actively trying to cut her mic during that speech.
Yeah.
So it gave it this weight and tension that I thought was incredible.
Not just trying to cut her mic, but planning to abduct and imprison her afterwards.
Right.
So while this is going on, Cassian and his crew are actively working against the Empire's crew. And it's almost like a race to, as soon as she's done, to get her the heck out of there, not be followed so they can get to Yavin.
It's kind of funny that literally happens on Hacks, and then Jimmy stops Tony Goldwyn from stopping the feed.
Resist!
Much different stakes. Yes, resist or whatever. But that was really good too, how so then there's the group that's going to take Mon Mothma, but we very early realize one of them is already for the Empire. Right. So then there's that scene where it's like, oh, I'm here to take you away, and then it all gets really tense, and then like, bam, 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 you're like, oh Jesus, like that. Yeah, that was really
what's
good.
Great too is, as much as Mon Mothma has been in the middle of all this, she's never been in the firefight shooting people and killing. So being with Cassian, and they're running and they're making their break for it, and she's like, we could just talk to them and we can get out. And he's like, yeah, all right. And he just starts shooting people. And she's like so shocked by the violence that I think that's fascinating.
The one line in 209 in her speech that sticks out, the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. And there are already memes on that. It's like, but one of the things I really like about the show as a whole, and I realize we've got one more pod to go, but it's showing in reality that resistances don't just happen overnight, and you've got all these different factions, some of which know what they're doing, some of which don't know what they're doing, some of which are hardcore, some of which are like, I don't like that. It's like, how did you think this was going to happen? To fight an entity like the Empire, you've got to use their means and methods.
Absolutely.
And that's going to lead us
not all their methods. I feel like you have to have some integrity, but
some of their means and methods.
Thank you.
One thing about 208 that we didn't talk about is there is a quick shot of Edie on Coruscant watching what's happening on Gorham.
Yeah, after her son is dead, like they're listening.
Well, the thing is, she knows her. We never get it. She doesn't get a delivery. She doesn't get somebody showing up the door. She knows from watching the news report he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she knows.
Next time we're only going to be carrying out Your Friends and Neighbors in the last pod of Andor, and then we'll have new shows to discuss. Hope to see you guys there. And with that, later, guys.
Later.
Bye-bye.